Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I go through my voiceover production process. I am no expert particularly. I've been selling voiceovers on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com for the last couple of years. I don't have any particular training, but over the years I have developed a process that seems to be working pretty well for me. So I'm using Twisted Wave on my Mac, and one of the things that really helps me as I use Twisted Wave on my Mac is that when I'm recording, bring my microphone over here, test 1, 2. When I make a mistake, I press the M key on my keyboard and it places a mark in the recording. And this is really handy because it allows me to mark a mistake and go back pretty rapidly. There's a technique that some other people use called pre-roll, and I don't do that. I just let it roll and let it roll and let it roll. And when I make a mistake, I hit M and I just back up as far as seems appropriate and then continue. So what I'm going to do is record this script, make some mistakes along the way probably, and then I'll show you my editing process to take this project to completion. So we'll delete all of this stuff and start fresh. Mitochondrial diseases are a heterogeneous group of disorders in which mitochondrial dysfunction produces clinical disease. In the central and peripheral neuromuscular systems, they include such diverse disorders as Alpers disease, a progressive cerebral poliodystrophy of infancy, and carnitine palmitoyl transferase deficiency, a relatively benign disorder characterized by exercise-induced myoglobinuria. Mitochondrial myopathies are diseases in which the clinical presentation and course of illness are dominated by pathologic involvement of muscle. Well, that wasn't too bad. So I only made just a couple of mistakes. So I got the beginning here, I'm going to trim this out, and you see lots of breathing here and here and here. We'll fix all that stuff, but first let's take out our mistakes. And I want to switch to my speakers so that you can hear what I'm doing here. Let's see if we can hear it. A progressive... Right, okay, so I made a mistake, and I hit M here, and I continued here. So what did I say here? A progressive something or other. So this part is a mistake. I used the Z key to zoom in. There's a breath, we'll deal with that later. A progressive something or other mistake, and then we continue to here. So now if I back up, we see what we have. In the central and peripheral neuromuscular systems, they include such diverse disorders as Alpers disease, a progressive cerebral poliodystrophy of infancy, and... So you see I made a nice little edit there, and you couldn't even hear it. Same thing here. So I made a mistake, and this is the phrase that we're going to replace. I hit the zoom key to zoom in, get rid of that, and it's fixed. Dystrophy of infancy and carnitine palmitoyl. Like it never even happened. So I scroll around a little more. I'm holding the shift key while I roll my mouse wheel to zip back and forth. And I can roll the mouse wheel without the shift key to zoom in and out, which is also sort of handy. I'm going to press shift up in Twisted Wave to see the waveforms bigger. And I'll scroll through here, and I'm going to delete most of the breath sounds and see if there are any other issues that I need to get rid of. But first, I have an effect stack that I want to apply. And I've spent a lot of time adjusting this thing, and I've applied a keystroke shortcut to this thing so that when I hit F15 on my keyboard, it just pops all of them up. And these are not free processing systems. This is from Acon Digital. I use it to get rid of some of the more subtle mouth clicks that I produce as I'm recording, and that's quite helpful. I have an equalizer that takes off a lot of the low end of my voice and some of the plosives, the P sounds that come in, and I've just sort of tweaked some of the rest of this stuff, and I really have no advice for you on adjusting EQ. You just got to sort of play with it until you're happy. Then I have a gate, which takes out some of the low noise stuff, and so when it's quiet, it'll take out just the sound of the room. I have a de-esser, which you'll see, so the S sounds, the sibilants, are brought down just a little tiny bit. I have a compressor, and I have a barricade, also known as a booster or a limiter. And all of this working together with these particular settings, with my particular microphone, at the particular distance that I speak into it, produces a pretty good sound, if you ask me. And so let's listen to it. Mitochondrial diseases are a heterogeneous group of disorders in which mitochondrial dysfunction produces clinical disease. So that's great. I'm happy with that. And so we'll apply it to the whole recording. I'm zooming out to see the whole thing. And then if I hit Shift down again to see the whole thing, I've mastered it to about -2 dB is where the peaks are. Actually, no, this is at -1. Look at this again. Where's my barricade? Over here. Out ceiling, -2 dB. That should be right. -2. That looks like -1 to me, but we'll sort that out later. So now you can see that some of the noise has been taken away, and I have a little bit less work to do in terms of trimming out the junk. And it's really obvious where the junk is. This is a breath, and I don't need it. So we're just going to take all this out, and I'm going to press Shift S, and I'm going to replace that opening thing with, say, ½ a second of silence. This looks like it might be a click of some sort, a mouth click. Group of disorder. But it's not. It's just a G sound. So that's okay. Let's scroll through here. We have another breath, which we're going to delete. Actually, I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to silence it. So I press S to convert that to silence. Continue scrolling. What's this? Looks like a breath. Now this breath is sort of in the flow of what I'm saying. Let's hear the whole thing.
Disorders as Alpers disease, a progressive cerebral...
Now, I could delete that breath, but I don't think I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is just make it a little less noisy by pressing F on my keyboard, and I'm going to reduce the gain of that breath by -6, and that might be a little helpful. It would also be helpful if I didn't breathe so, I don't know, noisily. I'm not very good at that yet.
Disease, a progressive cerebral poliodystrophy as Alpers disease, a progressive cerebral
I'm not crazy about that, but it'll have to do. I think I have another one here.
Deficiency,
and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I hit F, -6 is what I want, hit apply, and it's a little less jarring, I think.
Deficiency, a relatively benign...
All right, zooming out with my mouse wheel. Now I hit the Shift key and I'm scrolling. Here's another little breath.
Induced myoglobinuria.
But that doesn't bother me as much. Here's a big breath that we do not need. So I select it, I hold the Z key while I'm zooming in, select it, release the Z key, press S to silence that breath.
Myoglobinuria.
Okay, and that's the end of it. So I'll take this bit, select it, silence it, and I'm kind of done. Let's listen to it. Mitochondrial diseases are a heterogeneous group of disorders in which mitochondrial dysfunction produces clinical disease. In the central and peripheral neuromuscular systems, they include such diverse disorders as Alpers disease, a progressive cerebral poliodystrophy of infancy, and carnitine palmitoyl transferase deficiency, a relatively benign disorder characterized by exercise-induced myoglobinuria. Mitochondrial myopathies are diseases in which the clinical presentation and course of illness are dominated by pathologic involvement of muscle. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this little demo. I will be happy to take your questions as a comment on this YouTube page and answer them if I have a good answer. And if you have suggestions for me on my process, I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, YouTube.